Hi, welcome to Moonlit Fly Fishing, fly tying night tonight. I'm Brandon Moon, and tonight we're going to be tying up the Vortex Sculpin. This is a mini streamer sculpin pattern tied on a jig hook. So awesome effect is it's going to bounce nice and realistic with how a sculpin is going to bounce on the bottom of the river or stream bed. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. So the hook that we're going to be using for the Vortex Sculpin here is the ML 511 Premium Tagata hook from Moonlit. This is a 1X long, 1X strong jig. We're tying this in a size 8. We tie size 8 and 10s. The thread we're using is Semperfli Classic Wax 8/0 medium olive. The bead is a 4mm Pale Olive apple bead. We're going to tie in some straggle legs from Semperfli in a gray and brown. And we're just going to tie that in at the front, tie it all the way back to the bend of the hook, and then finish securing that up into the front. Now I'm going to take and twist these straggle legs together to combine them into one basically. And then you can see I'm palmering back and twisting with every wrap so that my fibers are going rearward and I'm creating a nice shiny underbody to my sculpin, because sculpins have a little bit shinier underbody. And we're going to wrap that all the way up into basically the bead of the hook, doing this palmering effect. You can see the fibers are kind of faced rearward. We'll secure that down with a couple wraps over the top, and then in front, trim that out. Invert my bead. Now I'm going to take some olive barred clear Chacon's micro crusher legs, and I'm going to tie 2 of them in on the inside. You can see I struggle a little bit getting these 2 legs over for one reason or another this time. We're going to slide those 2 legs over to the other side, where I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to secure them in on the side so that I have 2 pairs of these legs on both sides. These legs are going to give me two things here. It's going to add a little bit to my collar and push my collar out just a little bit. It's also going to breathe a little bit of life, like in the gill section area. So once we've done that and trimmed them out to the back at the bend of the hook, we're going to half hitch our thread, set it off to the side of the bobbin rest. I'm going to take a strip of 2mm pine squirrel in pale olive, measure this out to be about the length of the hook shank, just a little bit longer. And I always go longer because I can always trim this up, but I can't lengthen it out. I'm going to measure that point and I'm going to put it through my hook point at that hook length distance by separating the fibers, putting it over, pulling the hook out, and then I'm going to lay it on top. I'm going to pull my pine squirrel fibers back, and I'm going to capture that strip that's remaining with 2 over the top, and then lock it out in front and trim that out. I'm going to trim this as clean as possible, and then I'll just secure it down with a few more wraps over the top. Once I've done that, I'm going to move my bobbin rest into place, and we're going to create a half hitch here, or a dubbing loop. Once I've created the dubbing loop going in front and back a few times, I'm going to take my Smayan dubbing loop twister tool, which is my favorite, set it in the loop, and then let it hold in place against my bobbin rest. I'm now going to half hitch my thread so I can set it off to the side. Once we've done that, we're going to take that 2mm pine squirrel strip again. We're going to measure a little clump out of that. I want a decent sized clump because I want a fairly thick collar. We'll separate it, spread it, and trim that out. Once that's trimmed, we're going to take and put it in our Swiss CDC clamp, and you'll see I'll pull it down a little bit more. You can see I've left quite a bit of fibers out the back end of that. I'll trim that out. Now I'm going to take and open up with the springs my loop, set that in, tighten it down by pulling pressure on with my smay and dubbing loop twister. That's going to capture those. I can adjust my fibers just a little bit, and then I'm going to spin it and twist it with that smay and dubbing twister. Once I've twisted that, I'm going to take a dubbing brush and I'm just going to brush that out just a little bit. Make sure I get any of the loose fibers pulled out. Now I'm just going to take my rotary and get this up so that it's ready to start tying and wrapping palmering. Once I get to that point, I'm going to wet my fingers and palmer that pine squirrel hair just back just a little bit, and then I'm going to start wrapping, creating that collar, palmering it back with each wrap. Once I've got that all wrapped up, I'm going to take that dubbing loop and help create a little bit of mass in front to help push back a little bit. And then I'm going to secure that down over the top 2 times, pull it to the back where I'm going to build up my head just a little bit with a few more wraps, and then we'll whip finish. Today I'm going to do 2 whip finishes, so there's one. We're going to do a second one here just for good measure. I'll trim that out with my little tool there, snip tool. Now I'm going to take my razor blade and trim out my dubbing loop. And there you've got, basically you can fish this as is, or you can take and trim at an angle this tail, and this just helps taper out the tail a little bit. And there you have the Vortex Sculpin, an awesome jig sculpin pattern. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.